Good day to you. This is the Bob. I am bringing you more information about socialism, but first I want to give you this message. Joy. May you have joy in your life. This is a cup that was made by, or designed by Ellen DeGeneres, and I have another one that says be amazing. So I drink these cups for coffee for inspiration each day. So wishing that you have joy and that you are amazing, which I'm sure you are. I want to talk about socialism again, and today I'm going to talk about young people in socialism, sort of overall. And here are some ways to get in touch with me. I'm on Twitter now. I hope you can read this. I'll repeat this again at the end and put it in the text. Last week was an introduction to a book that has inspired me to talk about the subject of socialism in the U.S. This is The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, with a foreword by Jordan Peterson. It talked about vague fears of socialism based on the number of people killed as a result of, in the past century, Germany and the USSR, aka the United Soviet Socialist Republics. Democrats are now the party of socialism, and they are pushing it out front rather than attempting to hide it as the McCarthyist did, people did. Solzhenitsyn tells the human side of the story. He talks of his arrest, which I talked of last week, and the first step in his imprisonment in the gulags, or prison camps. People interned in the camps were those who were seen to disagree with the ruling socialist governing body. To all this talk about socialism, what do you really know about it? Basically, socialism is a theory in which all people become equal. Janitors make the same amount of money as doctors. Secretaries make the same amount as NBA stars. NBA star players and doctors make the same as janitors and secretaries. Government people make more than everybody else. So maybe this kind of explains the jump on the socialism bandwagon, because if you get elected in the United States as a socialist, you're going to be on the top and you're going to be like feeding at the trough of socialism, and all of the money that the people are going to be paying in taxes in order for you to have more money and freedom than they do. In socialism, nobody is allowed to talk about the fact that they feel they deserve more than deadbeats in the organization who do nothing to improve its success, because they all get the same amount of money no matter what they do or don't do. So, example, we're working in an office that provides widgets to the Army, for example. And I am a person who is hardworking, and I want to get good ratings, and maybe I want to get in with the socialist government so I can like move up the ladder. And I work really hard, and then some guy just says, oh well, what difference does it make? We all make the same amount of money. No, none of us is going anywhere, and if you disagree, you're going off to some camp, or you're going to get shot. So what does that do to morale in the workplace? Yeah, not much. So we're all getting the same amount of money. Socialists are poor. Socialism is popular with young people because they are generally poor. I remember being poor when I was a kid. I made $1 an hour working at a cafe when I was in college. $1 an hour, plus tips. It was a diner in my college town that was made out of an old railway boxcar. 10-pound sacks of potatoes were my staple food. I moved up to being a short order cook and then a prep cook for a pizza restaurant, and I was making like $3.25 an hour. You're kind of getting the fact that I'm kind of old, so hold that thought. Then I moved up and got office jobs where I filed stuff for a bank for about $5 an hour. Later I got office jobs for $10 and up, then a secretarial position for about $15 an hour, and made a little extra money on the side training people to use computers to do word processing and stuff, and I placed them. And anyway, so I moved my way up the ladder. So now I'm in my early 20s. I kept moving up and up and up, and by the time I was in my 40s, early 40s, mid 40s, I was making over $300 an hour for my services. So what happens with young people is you're making $1 an hour now, or whatever the equivalent of that is in today's wages, and you can't really see how maybe when you're 40 or 50 you're going to be making like huge money and being able to save for your retirement and all that kind of stuff. But when you're young, you're really enthusiastic about saying that everybody should have the same amount. I mean, these days the kids have been staying with their parents until they're 26 and maybe not contributing much to the household, although some probably are. But you want to have your own house. You want to have your own family. I've seen this, so many people going through this, young people now today living in California where I used to live, wanting to get married, have children, and they have to move to other states in order to do it. And so they're making sacrifices and they're moving forward. And they're looking for jobs, they're getting an education, and they're making more money. And that's the same way, it's the same way that progress in America has always happened for young people and families. But now, young people that are voting for socialists are voting for let's have it all now. Let's make us all evil now. Evil now. Well, that's part of it, but equal now. Sorry about the pounding on the table. I got to get over that. But anyway, under socialism, we would all make the same amount of money except for those who keep us under the socialist thumb, government. I think there's a lot of people who have a lot of problems with government now as it is. I mean, with taxation, and the government is not doing the things that we need, like border security, etc., etc. So under socialism, the government rules all. It's not a representative government. It's a government with a plan to bend people to its will and to reap the spoils, which is basically, it's like taxes. They're talking about you as a worker being unable to keep the products of your own labor. Lincoln talked about this with regard to slavery, that it was like bad for people to take from other people's labor, and that's exactly what this is doing. Of course, the U.S. as it is also does a certain amount of that with taxes and etc., but that's just a sidebar. On the face of it, socialism is supposed to provide a planned government with an expiration date. Once the equilibrium is reached, once we are all equal, the entire government structure is supposed to go away. And then we will all just live happily together without having any oversight or any pressure on us to behave in a certain way. Does that sound reasonable? No, and has this happened in Venezuela or Cuba or the USSR? No, it hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. As much as socialists or people who are in favor of socialism talk about this today and say, oh, we're going to try it again and it's going to be different this time, they're totally not taking into account the fact that once people get in power, they're not going to get rid of it. And that is where socialism led to in the USSR. Because the people in power, they knew that their power was tenuous unless they could get rid of everybody who was against them. So first they went after their citizens and they locked them up or shot them. And then they went to the citizens who were not necessarily dissidents, but family members, friends, even people in other countries who were against the Soviet Union. They went and they captured them, they shot them, or put them into the gulags. So, socialism is supposed to get rid of group and individual identities by forcing them to attach themselves to one identity, government. So unless you agree with the government, I guess you're screwed. Socialist government. This is the opposite of the principles of freedom in America. Individualism is worshipped here. Individualism. The laws and freedoms acknowledged through our Constitution are designed to help people resolve disputes. and to move forward. Socialism makes things stagnant. If all people are the same, where does the innovation come from? The U.S. protects the rights of all people. The Constitution protects negative rights. These are the natural rights of all people. Positive rights are taking away from one group to give to another, and that's what socialism is. One basic premise of negative rights is to be free of interference in the pursuit of happiness or the right to own property. Capitalism, while it may require some regulation, is the principle that undergirds one's ability to make a living and support a family. Socialism says that you must earn a living in a certain way and raise your family in a certain way, and people who resist must be punished. I don't like that idea. Back to the Gulag. Solzhenitsyn reports in page 20 of the chapter entitled The History of Our Sewage Disposal System. Through the sewer pipes, the flow pulsed. Sometimes the pressure was higher than had been projected, but the prison sewers were never empty. The blood, the sweat, and the urine into which we were pulped pulsed through them continuously. He's talking about the pipeline of the people into the prison camps. In other words, people who disagreed with the state were ground up into small enough particles to be shoved through the pipes of a state, funneling people into exile by taking their dignity, their individuality, their hopes and dreams, until they were a mass of sludge to be either exterminated or pushed into labor camps or to work for the state. So, basically, socialism is trying to bust you up, your individualism, your hopes and dreams, and push it through a pipe into a sewer. That's what Solzhenitsyn is saying. I think that's like an apt metaphor. More Gulag, page 21. There is also no difficulty in deciding whether we should classify among the prison waves those tens of thousands of hostages, i.e. people not personally accused of anything, get that, not personally accused of anything, those peaceful citizens, not even listed by name, who were taken off and destroyed simply to terrorize or wreak vengeance on a military enemy or a rebellious population. This action was, in fact, explained openly, by Latsis, I guess that's the author, in the newspaper Red Terror in November 1918. We are not fighting against single individuals. We are exterminating the bourgeoisie as a class. That's the middle class. I saw a video today on YouTube where a man purporting to represent an organization called Cal Exit, where California wants to secede from the United States. He's talking about this. He was saying that the interviewer asked him about, isn't it the middle class that is decamping from California? The middle class is leaving. And asking him, does he think that's a good idea? He says, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Same thing. We are not fighting against single individuals. We are exterminating the bourgeoisie as a class. That's the middle class. They're willing to get rid of the middle class, bring in the lower class, illegal aliens, keep the high-powered, tech giants who are bringing the most tax money in, and just, sending all the rest of the people to oblivion. Well, they are in a way sending them, but me, I'm a Cal Exit person. I exited California last year and moved to Utah. I love it here, it's great. So what does this have to do with young people? Young people are energetic and full of great ideas. Right now they're saying that some of the new representatives in Congress, like AOC and Ilhan Omar and the rest of those, the freshman congressmen, have a lot of energy, and that they're energizing the Democratic Party, and they're energizing the movement towards socialism. They seem to want to retire and have everyone collecting Social Security already. I mean, I worked really long and hard in my life, 2 jobs most of my life, and I got to the point where I was retiring. What would happen if somebody gave me retirement when I was 20? What would I be doing now? I certainly wouldn't be doing this. Just a hint, Oh, here we go. Here. They seem to want to retire and have everyone collecting a sort of Social Security that allows them to have big TVs, Wi-Fi, free healthcare, just like everybody else. Again, everybody the same. A lot of people on welfare these days have all of those things. Big TVs, Wi-Fi, and free healthcare. Already! I was a firefighter and I worked on an ambulance and I was going into the homes of poor people and they had bigger TVs than I did. Some of the people on welfare today are collecting already over $40,000 a year from the government in certain areas. And so I guess, you know, most students are probably not there, but sounds good. No work. I used to be a fire investigator and I had a fire investigation once where I went to a Section 8 house. Section 8 housing was supposed to be temporary and help people to move on. It was supposed to be to help them get over a rough patch so they could get back into the working world and go on to the path of the pursuit of prosperity in America, like most of us do. This fire investigation, while not a big one, was in the home of people who had, for 3 generations, there was a grandma, a daughter, and a baby daughter, all living in there, and they had been there for 31 years. Is that temporary? I guess. Maybe it's how you define it. This just totally defames the accomplishments of people who have actually done something, created nice families, shared their wealth and time with their communities, made friends with people instead of avatars, and created wealth and jobs in their states, towns, and communities. My final thought. People who want socialism want benefits, but they don't want to look at the downsides. It's all unicorns and fairies. I've heard that before. By trying to make everyone the same, they're trying to take away the differences that make engagement in our society rich and interesting. That's one of the great things about us. We are individuals. We can share ideas and learn from each other. But if everybody's the same and has the same junk crammed down their throats in school, in society, in everything, how boring is that going to be? Oh, we can just recite the socialist mantra. Da, 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 da. They want to cede too much to outside controllers, people in the government who benefit from their capitulation. Laziness? I mean, we're talking about young people here, and young people who haven't fought yet to make a family, to make a community, to make their individual statement in the world. So we're relying on the energy of young people to tell us that we are going to have this kind of a community. And yet we have so many people with so much more experience and that are interesting. I don't think it's very interesting. How many people do I know whose husbands like sit in the garage and just play games on Facebook or whatever? And I mean, these people aren't contributing anything to their communities or society. I mean, even if they're working, you know, maybe some, but where is the society? Where is the moving forward together as a whole to protect the freedom to be an individual? That's just not happening with socialism. I'll have some more personal stories next week. Still reading the Solzhenitsyn, but I have a few more books that I will likely quote from. Don't forget to pick up a copy of The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And don't forget to contact me at Ricky the Ba, at RIKKITHEBAH on Twitter, or follow me here on YouTube. Don't forget to click on like this channel and get notifications by clicking on the bell. Thank you, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. Bye-bye.